Hello, I'm Todd Phillips, the editor of Canadian Auto Dealer. We're here today with Larry Hutchinson, the president of Toyota Canada. And Larry, you're the first OEM we've talked to in the series of video interviews, but we're really curious to see how the company's responding during the pandemic, what you're able to do for your dealers and your customers during this. So how's it been for Toyota?
Todd, yeah, thanks for giving me the time and setting up the opportunity. Certainly, I think all the OEMs and just like the dealers would certainly say this has been a time of unusual upheaval, and no matter amount of disaster planning that you may do in advance would prepare you for what everyone's going through. I'd say that when we look at our customers, and I'm talking both dealers and our actual end retail customers. There's been a lot of action taken, certainly within the industry for sure. But I'll talk specifically to Toyota and Lexus. The first thing I'd like to say is that for us to get to our customers, we have to work with our dealers because we don't deal with our customers directly. So, when I talk about those two partners in our triangle, let's say, it's the first thing is the dealers. So in that regard, our dealers it's a resilient group. And as you've seen through years and years and years, entrepreneurial, ready to go. But this, I don't think anyone, no matter how good you are, would be ready for a challenge like this. So for us, it's really doubling down on what we call our partnership with our dealers, and getting to very quickly we needed to identify some process to get through this, and we call that stabilization, stable, and recovery, those three steps. And very quickly we set up through our dealer communications teams of both Lexus and Toyota a daily conference call per se. And we've done that every day. So we do them 5 times a week, anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, up until this week. I think this week is the first time we've stopped, and we're down to 3 times a week, I think. And then that's usually with the heads of the communication teams, and then we do a full communication team, both Lexus and Toyota side, on 1 day a week to get close to them. So, when we thought about the dealers, question of what we could do to help and what they may need. But we really had to hear, from their representatives. There's if I categorize, there's kind of there's financial pieces, there's operational pieces, there's dealing with staff, information about government that they need to have, and decision making, all those kinds of things. Then we have to sort of dial into what we can support them with within those kinds of things. So we kind of let the dealer communication teams give us prioritization, and our goal was really to make quick decisions. So either on the call the day the issue came up, if we could, or if not, certainly by the next day to get an answer back. So operational things may be, it's very difficult to process a warranty claim right now, so we need extensions, little detail-y stuff like that, but things that they need because their staff's not available anymore or whatever that may be, depending on if they've laid people off and that. So we've made a lot of changes that way in support of the dealers. The financial stuff, certainly, our finance company acted very quickly to defer interest payments and work with the dealers on mortgage payments, all those types of things for the dealers to actually use our TFS and LFS. So it's, again, very quick action on that regard, because cash flow is a big issue everywhere. We need to support the dealers in that way. But the bigger thing for us to do once you get through that stuff is, in our mind anyways, to share information to them, to provide them improved processes to deal with the situation, and best practices. So we have every day, and we've created a pretty big toolbox of things that they can refer to help them implement the decisions they know they need to make. And we are not the retail experts. The dealers are. But what we can do is we can get, through our field staff, through scanning all the dealers' websites, through the industry, is pull out information, organize it, and give it back to the dealers on a timely basis to help them to make the decisions they need to do. And then communicate. We send out information every day. And, we kind of put a filter on it, so this has to be useful. There's no use just sending out stuff. This has to be tangible stuff that the dealers can use to implement a process to change, whether that's how to do touchless or faceless service, as an example, what they should have on their websites, in playbook. So, we support dealers if they need to shut their service down, they need to shut their sales down, that's their decision. And so, but we provide them with a playbook of how to do that. These are things you need to consider. These are actions you need to take in preparation to do something like that. It's really, in our mind, this is not my term, but a friend of mine who works in Texas with Toyota North America had this term, approach things with a warm heart and a cool head. And that's kind of the process we're trying to bring to this, to show stability, to provide stability, and communicate that we're with you, we understand you, and we try to work with you as much as we can. And the things we can do, because we can't do everything, things we can do, we certainly have tried to alleviate the deals, make sure they are confident they can survive this period of time, and know that we what our plans are to come out of it, and those types of issues. So communication. Then on customer side of point that it's not dissimilar. What's a customer care about? Well, customer care is about a couple things in our mind. So first of all, this financial piece for the customer. So we have a very good financial company, Toyota Financial Services, Lexus Financial Services. They do a big chunk of our business in Canada. They write a big chunk of our business, and deferred payments really quickly was really important. The customers also, that's keeping the vehicle when they're having financial difficulty. Some people need to replace the vehicles, whether it's lease end, accidents, whatever that may be. So again, to have deferred payments on the new side, help a customer with that as well. And then the service sides, some service business car, we are an essential service, and sometimes we have to explain that to people. And a good example of that, we have our PDC staffs that are still working, supplying parts, and we have customers that have written into us that are medical frontline workers, and they've thanked the dealers. This is in our dealer survey process, but thank the dealers for the service they provided during this pandemic that has allowed them to have a moment of not having stress in their lives, because how it was handled as a touch-free situation. And that alleviated stress in their lives. And I shared a number of those stories, verbatims that they wrote in about their story about getting their vehicle serviced, and how good that was, and how they appreciated it, to our PDC staff as an example. And actually, I think we sent them out all the dealers yesterday as well, just to really give a good concrete idea of how important our business is to families that need to go get groceries, they need to go get medicine, frontline workers, whether that's fire department, police department, medical, all those things. The cars need to be on the road. They need to be safe. They need to be reliable, and that's a service we provide to them. And it's important that people understand that. Unfortunately, we do a lot of education with the governments to make sure that they understand that. And I think pretty consistently across Canada, we've seen that part of the business to be kept open. So, that supports the customer. And then the last thing in my mind, I'd say from a customer point of view, and it gets a little bit into some of the other topics we may talk about today, but is customers respect or pride in the brand that they own and the relationship they have with the brand. So, we don't talk a lot externally from an advertising point of view, those type of things about the things we do. It's just kind of not the Toyota way, I think, or Lexus way. But there's been a lot of activities taken about dealing with this situation in the marketplace, and we provide those informations directly to customers, either through our websites or through direct electronic communication, so they're aware of all the things Toyota is doing to help society really get through this situation. So we think we're touching most of the bases, but we're listening closely just to make sure that we are. And the biggest part of that is, frankly, listening to our dealers and staying really, really close to them on a daily basis, which I think we're doing pretty effectively.
Well, that's great, Larry. One question I have is going to be about this Canadian Blood Services initiative in a second. I think that's an important initiative that Toyota Canada is doing that people probably haven't heard a lot about. But I wanted to ask a follow-up question to you. You're obviously dealing with servicing dealers and supporting that. We're doing all of this daily briefing, but your own organization is completely decentralized and working remotely. So just like there's no playbook for dealers, I'm sure there's no playbook for an OEM to say, how do I run what was a centralized company with all kinds of branches and divisions? Now it's completely decentralized. So how's that working out for you to sort of manage all this extra volume of extra inquiries you might not normally get with a team that's spread out all over the place?
Yeah, it's a good question, and a number of the things I probably should mention about it. But the one, your last point there about all the different inquiries coming in. So, using our finance company as example, you can imagine, they're used to, approving contracts that are coming in and applications coming in and dealing with some customers on the other end, and there's different teams that do that. But certainly in the last 30 days, they have been inundated with because we've reached out to customers and told them, hey, if you have a financial consideration right now, we'll work with you to defer payment or whatever we need to do, extend your lease, whatever that is. And the call volume they've had is astronomical. But we worked with them really early from an IT point of view, because we shared that out of our company, and to make sure that they had the tools to work from home. So that was a big priority, to make sure that they had the capability from an IT point of view to do that. And then they really did a lot of quick training with staff that was, working in a different part of their business to get it in the front line and dealing with customer guest calls. So they got to them really quickly. And initially there was some pretty long wait lines, but the last weekend, the whole executive team at our finance company went in and worked the phones as well over the weekend, just to get caught up on that volume. And today we're in pretty good shape. And the call time is not, it's not 30 seconds, but it's not 15 minutes either. So they really got through that backlog, which is great. But talks to decentralization. When this all started, we have about 800 employees, I guess, in our organization, in my organization, excluding finance company, the plants, obviously. And, none of them worked from home. We were going to do, I remember we announced on a Friday, we're going to do a work from home test on the Wednesday. And then Monday came along, and Tuesday we announced work from home. So it was a pretty shocking, quick move. And I'd say that's 4 weeks now, 4 weeks yesterday, I think, that we've been working from home, and we've learned a lot. But in a time of crisis, I would say it works really effectively for us. Everyone has lots to do. There's lots of conference calls. There's daily reacting to what we learn from the dealers to make sure we can serve them properly, those types of things. And that keeps everyone's on the toes specifically to that. I don't know what it'll be like when, we get into this. And I think we're pretty much there now, what I call a stable phase. I suppose that stabilization of it, but that's stable and moving forward. I can't evaluate that going forward, but my expectation is that this is going to last. When I say this, I should be careful how I say this, but the work from home part of it in organizations that are able to do that will occur longer than organizations that can't work from home and the government starts to pull them back. So I think that when the government does start to pull back people into the economy or allow that to happen, that certainly organizations that have the ability to work from home, they would still be highly encouraged to do that, because we'll still need to do social distancing. That's not going to go away. And I think our organization can support that and move forward. There may be some more people we'd like to have in the office. We have technical people in the shops and quality people in that. So and they frankly do. They come in for that purpose somewhat. So, but I think we can manage that. And the only area is our warehouses, really, that we have people that have to come in support the distribution of parts. But we've done a lot of work back there. We've changed our shifts to make sure there's no overlap. We do extra cleaning, provide sanitizers, all that type of stuff. Everything that we can do, social distancing with that staff. And knock on wood, to date, we haven't had a case of this in our organization at sort of Canada, which is great so far. Yeah.
That's great. It sounds like you guys are figuring it out, and a big team effort for sure. One of the things that we've seen, and there was some interest in the media that I came across, was this Canadian Blood Services initiative. I know Toyota Canada has worked with Canadian Blood Services in Héma-Québec for a number of years on helping support them and improving their operation with Canada's blood supply. But in particular, you made some initiatives during this COVID-19 outbreak. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, we like I said, there's a lot of things that are going on with regards to social contribution. Our plants are making face masks and masks as well. We've donated all the N95 filtered masks we have. I think over 100,000 have been donated. A lot of charitable stuff, all that different types of stuff that's been going on, within North America and at the plants, and even from our own organization. But we've had a long relationship with Canadian Blood Services and Héma-Québec. And we think it's, we've always thought it's a very high priority item, because it's not necessarily a comfortable item, frankly. People talk about donating blood. Some people, have a little difficulty with that. But it's important for everything that happens. And in this time when so much attention is being given to this pandemic, and inappropriately so, the need for blood doesn't lessen. Whether you're having treatments for cancer, you've had an accident, you have whatever surgery, any type of surgery they may have, having children, the blood supply is important. And blood has a very short shelf life. I think it's around 42 days that needs to be constantly renewed. So our partners that we've been working with for, I think, 5 years now, came to us and say, we have a need to get our message out. And at the same time, we had media that had been planned out there and that we could put in place. And we said, this is a good use of our media. Without telling our story, they need help. This is a place that Toyota Canada can help in the market and help Canadians. When everyone's focusing on the result of the pandemic and the need, and that's great and needs to be done, this other need is still out there. There's lots of Canadians, as many Canadians probably, that need to be supported through blood transfusion and plasma and those types of things that these great organizations do. So yeah, we've made over $1 million available to support their drive communications. We're doing a little communicating ourselves in the Lexus brand about that, just to get it a little more emotional there for the consumer. We've had really positive feedback too from social media about these initiatives going forward. And also, we have dealers that have a relationship with these organizations and hold blood drives either in their dealership or they sponsor them in someplace else in the community. And they still have the ability to do that going forward. So there's some regionalization and localization, and we ask the dealers to actually use their own communication, whether it's on their website or anything that they put out from a social media point of view, that they actually remind people about the need to give blood. And we just think it's really important, and sometimes important things get missed when there's other big issues going on. So that's why we wanted to support.
Well, kudos to you and for that. Well, one last question I have, really, Larry, is beyond this. We're trying to get a sense and talking to dealers and suppliers and OEMs now about what this looks like post-COVID. I mean, I think the world, certainly during the crisis stabilization mode, as you mentioned, will stabilize. But on the recovery, I think some of the trends, the consumer trends, whether it's more digital buying, just a different consumer experience, I think are going to have a more sticking power. But maybe I thought I'd get your sense of some of the trends you might see that we won't see go away once the pandemic subsides.
Yeah, the first trend, I would say, in our opinion, is the need for the dealer. Times like this make us even more convinced in our belief that the dealers will play a central role of the sales and servicing of vehicles moving forward. And, there's a lot of talk about sales online, but when I talk to dealers about it, there are very few customers today that are, because right now, in provinces, that's all they can do. And it's very difficult to get people to think about that in such a big purchase, because they want to see the vehicle, test drive the vehicle, be involved in the vehicle, those types of things. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be a switch to wanting to transact digitally, wanting the dealer to provide services outside of the dealership where that's allowed, bring things to the home, those types of issues. I think we're all getting used to dealing electronically, whether that's in communication like this or in purchasing things at home. And we see that in all the trends we see from the different studies that are done, and Google and all the different reports and analysis we get constantly what's gone on in the last month. So certainly people, a lot more people are learning how to use the tools. A lot more people are getting more comfortable how to use the tools. But still, the cars still need to be serviced in dealerships. They're getting more and more complicated. And someone needs to hold the hands of consumers as you go through a buying experience. And frankly, a buying experience online, as much as I know technically we can make the steps pretty easy. The education and the understanding of what's in the vehicle and what's in this vehicle versus that vehicle, sometimes you need a little more guidance from good product advisors to make sure the consumer is really understanding what they're getting and that they're getting what meets their needs. So I think yes, and certainly we're working on that. As you know, we're working on that. We've had a group quite a while in our business innovation side, and we're prioritizing and stepping up the emphasis on the digital stuff. Again, working with the dealerships and moving forward, and we provide them a lot of best practices and of how to do that. I think that there will be more trend and more education, but I don't think that will lessen the dealer's role. It may change the dealer's role, but I don't think it will lessen the dealer's role. We talk about the importance of dealers. So give me another example. When we talked about Canadian Blood Services, we also wanted to look at, okay, how can we help? We have a big footprint in Canada. We're the biggest producer of vehicles here. We have a very big finance company, probably the biggest automobile finance company now in Canada, I would guess. And Toyota Canada does pretty well itself from a retail point of view. And we try to reach out and say, okay, how else can we help society go through? And it comes back to the dealers again with us. So as an example, we made $1 million available to our dealers to do things in their local communities in a participatory way, right? So it's like a matching program. It has a caps and that, but overall, because we know the importance of the dealer reaching out and supporting their community, because that's the communities we do business in. So as an example of that, this is something we launched, and it was launched in conjunction with, frankly, dealer participation and dealers' ideas of how we can move forward with it quickly. So the Calgary dealers, we have, I guess, 6 dealers in Calgary, and they said, well, okay, we're going to pool that fund, and together they made a $60,000 donation to the local food bank in Calgary. And they're able to do that through, again, half the money came from us, half that came from the dealers. And again, that makes that localization piece and what we feel is the dealer importance even that greater, because that's where the issues happen. And the dealers are the ones that deal with our consumers. So we wanted to really get grassroots on it. And I suspect the majority of our dealers will take advantage of that program. And they all do great things in their communities anyway. This has just helped them do something that, maybe they didn't have budget set aside for this, so they can find a different place to do that. It gives them the opportunity to do that overall.
Okay, well, hey, thanks for the time today, Larry, and appreciate our audience of dealers will be happy to hear your endorsement and support, obviously, for the continued and enhanced role of the dealers going forward. That's obviously a key focus and for them. So appreciate the time today, and good luck with the recovery phase of this as well.
Yeah, I know. Thank you, and good luck to you. I mean, I think it's every organization in the industry is certainly going through a trying time. I think it's important we work together. And what, a couple things I would like to add. First of all, when we worked with our dealers and worked with governments, it's been very clear that the dealer associations, both regionally and nationally, have been a big help to the dealers. And just like our associations that we're involved in, global automakers or Japanese automakers or the whatever that may be. But that having those voices together is important, and having those regional organizations for the dealer is very important for everyone. But additionally, from the daily calls we have with our dealers, and I would like to think we would know this anyway, but we understand the difficulty of what they're going through. Not that you know, it's tough when you sit down and have to lay someone off, someone who you respect and have worked with closely in those types of issues. So, you know, we have a great respect for the difficulty and the leadership they're showing in the local communities and to their teams, and trying to support that as best as we can. But know that we will get through this. As an industry, we're strong. The dealer mentality is strong, and we will get this behind us. We have no doubt in that at all, Toyota.
Well, that's a great positive message to end on. People are looking for hope in this, and I agree with you 100%. Dealers are resilient, and their OEM partners that we've talked to, they've appreciated the communication back and forth. So I think you know, there'll be an industry. It might be slightly look a little different on the far side of this, but there'll still be a solid industry there. And so thanks for your time today, Larry. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Take care.
Signing off.